Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Conversations Around the Table. It's Vicky, and I'm joined today with Shine. Say hi, Shine.
Hi, Shine.
Welcome. I'm so glad I'm getting to do this with you because I see you probably more than I see anyone else at the office, just because I come in about 2 to 3 times a week. And of course, you're always here.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time together. And actually, I feel like our morning routines are very much entwined because we start our morning off just like conversation, like just talking.
Right.
Which is nice because in this day and age, that's no longer really a thing that we have anymore.
Right.
So I know I appreciate it. And I'm sure you do too, especially being in the office so much.
Yeah, it's a good way to start my day. Coffee talk, I like to call it.
Yeah, coffee talk.
And kind of ease into the day and like what I'm going to be doing. Usually I'm half asleep in the morning, so it's nice.
But you also start your mornings off like super early. Not every morning in case no one knows this, but Shine is, I've done a couple of workouts with her and I can't keep up. But I know you do cycling and you also do boxing. Mm-hmm. Is it boxing that you also teach?
Right.
So what's that like when you have to do those on top of before coming into the office?
So I teach the morning classes, which start at 6:15. So I have to be at the studio to prep and get the class ready at probably 5:45 in the morning. And I don't wake up and roll out of bed and get there just like that. I wish I was that person. So I wake up at 4:15 to wake up and do my own morning routine at home and have a coffee on the couch and take my time and get my bag together. And then I go to the studio and I'm the hype woman. So I have to wake up first in order to be that energetic.
Right.
Because usually my students in the morning, they're not as energetic. So I have to be the one to set the mood. And
when did you start doing that?
Actually, this month will be 1 year ago, which is crazy because it doesn't seem like it's been that long.
And how did you get started? Were you first a student and then you were like, this sounds interesting to be the teacher?
Yeah, I started boxing in college. There was a random studio, when people used to put flyers up to tell hey, this is what's going on before social media. I walked by one of those podium things at college and there was a flyer for boxing classes. So I took the little, you tear it off the number or whatever, and you go. And so I showed up and I ended up in a boxing studio with a coach and started doing boxing, and I really loved it. But then my coach moved to, I think, Ahwatukee, and as a college student, that was way too far, too expensive. So I stopped doing it. But I'll pop into random box gyms and do kickboxing classes or whatever. But this instructor, the owner of this studio, I met him through some other fitness friends, and I just really liked his energy, his teaching style. And so during the pandemic, I thought about him, I wonder what he's doing now. And it turned out he was opening his own studio. So once he opened, I was doing private sessions with him before he opened, and then went to the studio when he opened. And then he put on an internship program saying, whoever wants to be a coach, there's an internship program starting if you want to jump in. And only my husband knows this. My secret dream, my secret heartstring was to be a coach someday and really get into group fitness. And someday I want to actually go into cycling as an instructor. But I've always had that, you have that little voice that's no, not you. But
I do. I have always there.
And so it was such an easy, here's an opportunity, and it scared the crap out of me. So I'm all right, cool. I'm just going to sign up and don't ask questions. Because usually the way I kind of guide myself is if I do something and whatever scares me the most, that's usually the opportunity that I need to move on. So I just said yes and signed up and just started going. And it was really, really tough for me. I think just getting out of my head, trying to figure out how to make it work. Because in the beginning, I wasn't sure if it was going to work. Mm-hmm. And when I started, I was really bad because when you're on the mic and you're trying to run a class, you want to be confident and not sound like you don't know what you're doing or have that unsure voice, because then you just sound weird. And that's how I sounded in the beginning. So it was really uncomfortable.
A little shaky.
Yeah, a little shaky. But it's the part of running the room and filling it with energy, especially at 6 a.m. when there's no energy. And you have to be the person to be like, so let's have fun, and you have to be the one hyping them up. That part's hard. Or entertaining them when there's like quiet moments and you're the one filling the air with your voice. You're like, what am I supposed to say right now?
I just was thinking that too, that you are wearing multiple hats. Like as an instructor, it's not just that, because there is like those things that you said. And and a lot of people, when they do the morning classes, it's because for that reason they need that wake up, that pick me up. And so then, you have to carry that energy. So you talked about that you're an athlete. What kind of sports did you play growing up?
So I grew up in a family of runners. My dad's a marathon runner. A lot of my cousins are runners. And so they were always training. And then me being the little kid that was with them, I got dragged to every race, every meet. We were driving down here to Phoenix to watch my cousins compete in like state track meets and things like that. And my dad was he was obsessive about his goals. So one year he decided he was going to run the Shiprock Marathon, and he had jumped in. He's very, he can be an overconfident runner because he's just so good. He was so good back in the day. And so one year, Shiprock Marathon, I forget, we were there for some reason, and he just decided to jump in without training, a full marathon. And he ended up, I think his body crashed at like 22 or 23 miles, somewhere really close to the end. His body, he had to stop running. And so he became like obsessed with it for the next year. So he trained so much. He was always running. Everything that we did, it was around his schedule. So we'd have to go home because he had to do his long run. And we lived on the Navajo reservation. So it's like dirt roads and like very rural. So I would be with him. My mom would be at work, and he would going on his long run. So we go on this dirt road, and there's like cornfields with all the fences. So the fence posts go down. So while he'd go on his long run, whatever he was going to do, he would have me working out. I'd have a workout assigned to me while he left. So he'd leave me by the cornfields on the dirt road and say, this is your workout. You're going to run like sprints between every milepost, walk, sprint, and then repeat until I get back. So I would be set on my own workout while he was out running. And then when he would come back, we would run back home together. So I was always training with him or doing something and getting,
How old were you?
It. I ran my first race when I was 5.
What?
Yeah. I got the award for being the youngest runner in the mile fun run. So I used to run like the 5Ks, the mile fun runs when I was really young. And my dad would go run like 10Ks and things like that. So we just all go the same thing. So I guess I was and now I think about it, I guess I was kind of independent because he would go do his race and I would just like entertain myself, go do my run and then wait for him to get done.
That's insane. I know. I'm like, what was I doing at 5? Definitely wasn't running any marathons. But that's a great like form of discipline. Or like you said, it probably shaped you a lot in your independency. What other, I guess, I'm not an athlete. I think I was definitely more in the arts, theater and things of that nature. So what would you say were some of the benefits of having that instilled in you in such a young age?
Right. I think just one is like work ethic because and I know now, especially with a lot of people talking about the younger generations, they say they don't have a work ethic. I think when you're an athlete, you learn to push through even when things are tough. And once you set a goal, it's not about if it doesn't work out. It's more like, here are the steps. How am I going to figure out how to get to that goal? And I know I still do that today. Like I still make my goals every quarter, even my personal goals. And I set them up what I want to happen at the end of that quarter and at that time. And then I just backtrack it. Like, how many workouts do I want this week? Like right now I started for the end of this year. I want to do more boxing. So I've added in more boxing during the week of my own training because I don't count when I'm coaching as training for myself. And that already has been like really tough. But it's a mindset that I've already said yes to it. And even when I'm exhausted and I have no feeling, I have no idea, I don't want to go. I want to go back to my bed. I want to sit on the couch with my dog. But I know it's in my training program that this is my workout today. So I just show up now. And I think if I wasn't an athlete, it'd be so easy just to not
like
show up at all.
That a little.
Yeah. So, and that's just me pushing myself. That has nothing to do with, there's no one, telling me what I have to do anymore. So I think that is really stuck.
How has, you kind of talked about it a little bit too, was how, because like there's such a physical aspect to what you do, like with the boxing and running and so forth, how do you make sure that your mental health stays just on track with like the things that you're putting into your life physically?
How do I,
like, I'm just curious to know how you also manage, is like, what is that balance between like your physical activity and also your mental health?
Okay. I think for me, and it can be different for anybody. I think when you're talking about mental health, you got to find the things that bring you peace, the things that actually bring you rest. Because the world's chaotic. There's so many things happening in the news and it can be overwhelming. And if you're not limiting that or having some sort of an outlet, then it can be overwhelming. That's when you get depressed and you have anxiety. So for me, that is working out. Like when I'm working out, I am in my own world and it's like my favorite place to be. It's my home and that brings me peace. So that's why just me going to work out outside of coaching, when I'm not worried about other people, I'm just in my own zone. That's my own private place, Right. But that could be, I know like some people like to cook. Some people like to just go read a book or whatever it is. I think you got to find that for yourself. But I think also being very self-aware, like what do you need, and listening to your own needs. Because I know I used to be, you can become obsessive in working out where you just work out so much that you're not taking care of yourself, or your goal is, before I started doing a lot of inner work when I was younger, I was trying to please my coaches. I was trying to impress my dad, who is an amazing runner. And so I would, work even harder, probably when I should be resting. And I wasn't taking care of mental health. And looking back at that now, it was just because I didn't have, self-awareness and I wasn't listening to my body or to my mind of what I needed. And that did put me in a lot of darker places or just not feeling great mentally. But now, since I'm more aware of everything and I listen to my body now and I give myself days to rest, and I know it's okay if I have a full training program, this day my body's just like, nope, not today. Instead of, shoving myself out there and making me get the miles or get the class, I just cancel it and I go home and I rest, Right. So, but that's also something that I've decided to listen to myself. And I noticed I wasn't doing that. I was kind of workout-aholic, kind of obsessed, So now I have programmed in full rest days. And on those days, I don't have anything planned. And the big thing about those is protecting that time, which is probably the hardest thing, is just saying no to things. Yeah. And knowing who I can be around on those days that don't make me feel anxious or feel like I'm in work mode. And so yeah, I'm, learned about myself over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've known, like I've mentioned, I've personally worked out with Shine. I joined her for a cycling class, and I sat in the back because I just was like, I'm going to let everyone who's really good be closer to the mirror. But even seeing that, that was the sort of definitely seeing, pushing yourself. But then at the same time, me and you have also had brunch together and just walked around the mall. And that's also a nice little balance to that too. And I like what you said about definitely incorporating more of those rest days, and not only just physically, but mentally, because like you said, there's a lot of noise out there and a lot of noise that you can have within yourself. And I think it's really important to, like you said, surrounding yourself with people who help, not necessarily add to the noise, but definitely can help you see through your rest days. But yeah, and I've also seen you when you share on social your rest days, and Winston's right there next to you.
Weston.
Yeah. are right there next to you, watching a show and stuff. I know you mentioned you got married during the pandemic.
I did.
What was that like? I mean, everyone's experience of the pandemic is so different, but I'm curious to know, what was it like getting married or having a wedding during the pandemic?
Right. It was small. Well, we were going to originally get married November 2020. And so I was planning for a wedding about we put down a deposit on the reception. And then in March, everything changed. And my husband and I had been dating for a while, and I had been on him, when are we getting married? Hey, when's this going to happen? So I was kind of pressuring him a little bit. So we joke about that. But I was for real though. When are you going to marry me? And it was funny because he used to say he never wanted to be married. And so when he finally asked me, I was total shock, completely surprised. It was the year before. Because I kind of had just was this is the person that I want to be with. This is going to be my partner for life. It didn't really matter at the time, but this also was just one of the dreams. I want to have a husband. I want to be able to call him my husband. But we are thinking about it now. We're both very kind of private when it comes to our relationship in a sense. And I don't think because we're trying to hide it, it's just we want to protect what we have. And because we have a lot of crazy family members and crazy friends, and that are what we call our, our crazy makers, they, so when we were thinking about planning a wedding, it was kind of overwhelming. We're oh my gosh, who are we going to have in this room? It's going to be so interesting trying to plan a wedding. And I think what's overwhelming about it, not because we don't love our family, we love them very dearly, but we both grew up being major, major people pleasers. Mm-hmm. So having that many people in a room is overwhelming, because I'm oh my gosh, I'm going to have to make sure everyone's okay. How am I going to figure out how to make this person here? And we're the people that kind of entertain people at all the holiday dinners. If everyone's awkward, we're the ones Josh is a comedian. He's always telling jokes, and he's planning, let's play a game, let's do this, so he's entertaining everybody. Or we become the people that are in the middle of conflict trying to calm it down and make it, so we're always we're always on.
Yeah.
So I think that was something that was nerve-wracking about planning a wedding. So the pandemic kind of helped us because it made us kind of get out of that and forced us out of that. And because I didn't want to postpone, because I didn't know what was going to happen, I was I finally got asked. I'm not postponing this wedding. There's no way. We're getting married. So with everything happening, we were trying to figure out everyone we knew. There was 2 other cousins on his side that were getting married. Everybody was postponing, and I was just I refuse. I want to get married. I don't want to push it off. So what we ended up doing was moving it up. We got engaged on July 5th, the year before, in 2019. So we got married on the same day, July 5th in 2020. And we just went to Sedona with a couple of friends and turned it into a smaller wedding. And I took advantage of every pandemic discount I could get. Because you're oh, I'm sorry, the pandemic ruined my wedding. Yeah. And they're oh, here's a discount. I'm thank you so much, And it was we ended up getting married at a really fancy resort, which I had no idea. La Berge in Sedona was an amazing resort. It doesn't even look like we're in Sedona. It's a meadowy green thing that we got married by the water. And it was just amazing how everything worked out. And when we figured out we were doing that, I was this is our chance. This is just for us to focus on ourselves and not take care of other people.
Right. We
invited a few family members, friends, and I said, once the invite is out, we're not going to chase anybody. It's out there. And we're not going to worry about it. We'll have a big reception someday down the road and have the whole family together. But I think it was meant to be that way because we were so outward focused. It just let us just focus on ourselves. So it was actually really great for us.
Yeah, and that's really important, especially the date, because that's one of the most common things that I feel definitely what I experienced when I got married, but what I hear from other people is the day goes by so fast, or it's because you're being pulled in so many different directions, and there's a timeline of activities and things of that nature, that it really doesn't feel so much like your day, because you have all those things that you're, like you said, trying to make sure your guests are having a good time.
Right.
And so the pandemic helped shift that. How would you say in your experience, what were some of the other sort of eye-opening realizations that you had during the pandemic, whether it related to you personally or professionally?
Right. I think when I was looking at the pandemic, my heart goes out to like everyone that doesn't have a home that they feel safe and peaceful in, because I've definitely had that growing up. And during the pandemic, it was like the best thing happened. Like, you have to stay home more. And I realized, like, I love being home. Like, our apartment is so peaceful and safe, and I don't have any like crazy situations happening. And I can always, it's like become like a safe haven. So being like required to stay home was like amazing. It was like the most amazing thing. My husband and I have both kind of grown up in like dysfunctional families where the relationships were so crazy at certain points that we've done so much work in therapy and on ourselves separately that it's just nice to come to a point where we can just like reap the benefits of having a healthy relationship, you know, with each other. Yeah. And just having that like peace at home was like amazing. And to be able, the pandemic really highlighted that, because, you know, talking to some friends that were dating, I had some friends that were dating that broke up, we know friends that like aren't married anymore. Or maybe they had crazy roommate situations, and, you know, it kind of, that tension built during that time and they were having a hard time. And I was like, I don't have that at home. Like, my dog's the only one, I always joke, my dog's the only one that yells in our house because he barks when he's hungry, and he's the only one that's crazy. So it was just really exciting to see that work that we put in over the years.
Yeah. And having that, I know you and I have like talked, you know, during some of our just personal downtime together of like upbringing and, you know, the relationships that we had growing up and how that's shaped us now. And so that's really refreshing to hear about, because I kind of had a similar feeling with like, you know, staying home. You're like, I don't have to go anywhere, saving gas or whatever. But I also got, for me, to spend time the first like year to 2 years of Evelyn's life just being a mom and being there. And so that's great to hear that, because like you said, there have been situations with people where, you know, the pandemic helped them or it, you know, shifted things and stuff. Right. So it's nice that during a pretty crazy time in everyone's life in the world, that you were able to have this like grounding like presence. After, you know, coming back out of that and, you know, thinking of career-wise where you were going to go, how did you find your way to Ideas Collide?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about this since I've graduated college. I don't know why, but it's just been my journey is that every job I've been in has either had a massive layoff or what they call reorganization. And my job always ends up to being like, oh, and your job's in the mix. Which has been great for me, because in the long run, when I look at my resume, I've just had so many different kinds of experiences. I've worked in for-profit education, community college, got to work on some grants. My last job was a construction firm, which was really cool. They had some really great stadium jobs at universities. So I've gotten to see a lot, you know, have a really diversified background. But the thing I've noticed as I've, you know, grown and have been working on myself at the same time is really wanting to be around quality people and continue the piece that I'm growing in my own relationships and my friendships. I want that to be at work. And I don't know if everyone else can agree, but like jobs are not always like that. There are crazy makers at work too. And if you have them every day, it's really, it can make, you know, going to work very stressful, or when you don't have great communication, and it can make things crazy. So, unfortunately, I've had that experience at some other jobs where I've had like terrible bosses that don't listen, that, you know, bring their personal things to work. And, I've had one job where, you know, it was so stressful and I was still learning how to speak up for myself that I was just internalizing everything and I would end up at home crying in my closet at the end of the day, you know? So as I've learned more about myself, it was just more like, I don't want this. I don't want this kind of job. I want to have a job. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. I just want to be around quality people and have leaders that I can trust. So the last job I did a reorganization. They decided to go in a different direction with my job. And it was funny because I just was like, not this round of looking for jobs. I was just not with it. Like, I don't want to do it again. I feel like it's similar to dating. Like, I'm like, oh, I have to go back and put myself out there and like dress up and say like, I'm amazing. Why, you know, tell me your red flags. I just wanted to be like that. Just line them up. Like, what's wrong with you? So I think for a full month, I just didn't do anything. I literally just watched reruns of like Gilmore Girls and like hung out with my dog all day, went to coffee shops and didn't apply for one job because it just seemed so overwhelming. Like, oh, I don't want to go through this again. Yeah. I had the book Best Companies. I forget what publication did that, Best Companies to Work For. And I literally had that book and I was just highlighting all the addresses within like a 5-mile radius. Like I was like, oh, Scottsdale. And I literally, it's all I was doing. And then I would go and like go on their website and see if they had a job. And so I was just going down the line and it ended up on Ideas Collide. And I was like, oh, it's really close by. And then you guys had a position. And then I got into my head about it. Like, I can't do this. There's no way. I don't have the experience. I went like all spiraled and I didn't apply for like a month. I think I don't know what I did. I talked myself out of it because I remember it took me forever to just even update my resume. I was going to do this really cool redesigned resume and I never did it. And so I finally just picked up some old things, the one I already had, and, just put my name on it. Just like, whatever, I'm going to send it. Just send it like that, whatever. And I was like, not looking forward to the rejection call.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I think it was because I really wanted it that I didn't want to mess it up. And then I was just like, whatever, just send it. Just tell me no, you know?
Yeah.
And then they ended up calling for an interview and I was like shocked. And I was shocked because they closed it out. I think they were
like
pretty
before
much,
you had your interview?
I think they were pretty much done. Like MA told me she was done looking for people and she's like, but your resume snuck in last minute and decided to call you. So I like just got in under the wire and to be considered.
I always like look at those things. I'm definitely I don't know if I always used to be this person, but definitely the last few years I've just been more accepting of like fate. Oh, right. It was meant to be. And I don't think I used to have that kind of mentality. I used to just be like, well, I made it work or I did it. And there's a little bit of that too. But I definitely am now more of just like the stars aligned and it all worked out the way it was meant to be. I'm
a big person like that. Like I have to have peace or I have to have like a sign or something that makes me feel like good about it. And the day that I did it, and I don't remember exactly what I was thinking, but I just remember being February 14th. I was like, love day. I'm just going to send it. Okay, just send it. Whatever happens today, it's in love. Doesn't matter. And
you've been here now, let's see, not a full year yet. Probably
not
like,
yet.
9 months?
It's going to be 8 months this month. Yeah.
It feels longer. I always feel like time just in general just feels either super fast or super short, but 8 months.
Yeah, I think the people here are amazing. Like I'm just like always shocked by the team love. You know, we talk about team love a lot in collaboration and people say that, but I actually see it happening all the time.
I'm curious to know, because you seem so goal oriented and you're just always thinking about like how to better yourself. What are some of those like, I guess, initial goals that you have, and it could be personally or professionally, that you hope to accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years?
I was not looking forward to this question. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing this weekend. Honesty. Like she's like 5 years. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I think what the pandemic taught me is like, I can do so much more with less, you know, like if I have more focused time at work, then I have more time to be with my family and not be stressed out because I have so much work to do. So I'm always just looking for like, what can I in the short term get better at? Where are my weaknesses or things that I want to expand in? Personally, I'm still trying to push myself in my training. I was just telling my husband, like, I want to be one of those girls that's like, you could see my muscle. You know, I've been such an endurance athlete that I've never really focused so much on strength. And I don't know if you know, but Dana Lynn Bailey is like one of my idols. Like, I just love her. I love her because she's so down to earth. Like, I feel like if I met her, I could just like hang out with her. She has a YouTube channel, so we're always like looking for new videos so I can watch them. But she has also like an insane work ethic. Like, she was the first like female Miss Olympia in her category, and she's just so tiny. But I just think it's awesome, all the things she's accomplished and how hard, even though she's not actively competing, she still trains just as hard, you know? Right. And, but she's jacked pretty much. She's good. She'll be flexing. I'm like, that's her off season. Oh my gosh. I feel so fat. I have no muscle, but I swear it's there. I'm like so close to my push up. And the only reason why I've just never really focused on it, because when you're running for like half marathons and things, you're training so much. It's not really strength focused. It's more endurance focused. And I can run like in my sleep. So I need to do something different. And I have a new opportunity recently, so I'm looking into some strength gyms to see what I can do in that arena. And so really put myself into that. I'm going to focus on strength and maybe get into like some heavier lifting so I can see if this little bicep will grow.
I'm with you there, because that's always been my main thing is the strength part. Is I think I'm really good with endurance. Like, I could be, you know, on a treadmill for a good, like yesterday, for example, poor Evelyn, I walked 2 miles because she wanted an ice cream cone. So I said, well, we're going to walk. Yeah. And so we walked 2 miles to the nearest McDonald's and, I walk pretty fast. The poor kid was just like trying to keep up with me, but she did it. And I was like, wow. I was like, okay, so I know that we can do it. And I go, but if you ask, like, I think halfway on the way back, she was like, carry me. And I was like, no. Yeah. I go, because I was like, I know that I just no longer have the strength anymore. But that's definitely like something I know that you're going to excel in, because I have no question about it. I always feel like, I mean, I see it obviously through what you're already doing with cycling and boxing, but even here working with you, you're very much of just, once you've made up your mind about, well, that's what I'm going to do now. Like you push through it. Yeah. And I very much admire that about you. I'm curious, this is going to sound so left field, but has Josh ever gone to any of has he cycled with you before or gone to the boxing classes? Yeah,
he used to cycle with me. Josh is actually the one person that dragged me to the cycling class. I was like, cycling's so boring. The bike doesn't go anywhere. That sounds stupid. So we went to I think an LA Fitness spin class years ago. That's probably like, I don't even know, 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 7. And I thought it was the dumbest thing ever, because they do these jumps where, you know, you're sitting in your seat and then you're out of your seat. But I couldn't do those and keep my feet moving. And I was like, this is so stupid. Why? This bike was nowhere, you know? And I was like, I'm never doing that again. And then we ended up going to Party on a Bike at the Madison Improvement Club. And that's like basically a club on a spin bike. And I didn't even know that existed. They did like a blackout, like the music dropped and the lights went out, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know that feeling when you're on a roller coaster? You're like, oh my God, it felt like that. And I was like, whoa, I've never felt like that in a workout class. That was really fun. Then I kind of became obsessive about trying to figure out how to get my feet moving that fast, which I did it unsuccessfully because I didn't really focus any time on it. I went like once every month maybe, which it's not good for trying to learn something new. But one of my friends during the pandemic opened her own studio, and it ended up being down the street from my house. So I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to go like 3 times a week and I'm going to figure this thing out. And I think that was September 2020. I was like, just like you said, made up my mind. I'm committed. It's down the street 3 times a week minimum. And now I'm at like 346 classes. And I've been going consistently since September 1st, 2020. I've only taken time off for like vacation, maybe 2 vacations where I took off like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then I went right back, which is crazy because I've never been this consistent in my life, like in the last like 10 years. So I've been consistently working that time. And then during that time was when I decided I wanted to do boxing as well. So I kind of added that in. It gave me confidence. The consistency
why not?
gave me confidence. And then I was like, this is the best time. I'm just going to do it. So now I make my schedule at the beginning of the week, what I'm committing to, kind of like, your meetings. And so I have my coaching classes, how many spin classes I'm going to do or how many workouts I want to do during the week. And I just fill them in my calendar and keep track of them.
I love that because I'm also, it's very well known that like before you get to actually get into that like cadence, that repetition, you got to do those small tasks in a consistent manner for a little while before it eventually just becomes second nature.
Right.
So to do 300 and something rides.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's crazy. I shocked myself. I'm like, who am I?
I think I can only count 3 since like my entire life since doing that.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was literally just show up. That was my only goal. Don't care how I did in the class. It was just show up. That was it. And then as I got better, then it was like, okay, then I started practicing on like, sprints. I wasn't good at sprints. Or now if you don't know anything about the spin community, it's blown up with choreography. So it's just spin bike and rhythm riding has blown up. It's very trendy, right on trend right now. And there's some really amazing instructors. I've gone to some master classes with some amazing instructors. If you know Army from LA, New York, got to spin with Angela Manuel Davis, which is like, I can't even believe it. Like, she's insane. And I let her kill me in like 2 classes and it was awesome. And just being able to do choreography. I remember the day that I let go of the handlebars because they do this crazy move where it's like a push-up kind of thing while you're on the bike doing the rhythm. But then now they let go of handlebars because the choreography is just blown up. And the first day I did that, I just trying to keep my feet moving, but I was also like panicking, like freaking out, like, oh my God, I'm doing this. Oh my God, I'm doing this. Don't die. And even my instructor, like, at the end of that song was like, you did it. She was like screaming at me and I'm just trying to think, don't mess it up. But, it was just funny because like I've come so far from like just trying to get my feet going to the right rhythm. Now we're doing all these crazy combinations.
Yeah. And I've seen it, like I said, when I sat in the back that one time, because you mentioning like letting go of the bars, that was my thing too. I was like, I'm pedaling and I'm trying to go with the rhythm, but then they're like, I can't let go and then do this. And I was like, how? And everyone made it seem so effortless. Right. Like I even looked at you and I was like, everyone is just like, they know the moves, they know exactly when it's coming and they're able to do it. And like you said, that's just a testament because you're showing up.
Right.
And obviously you didn't start out that way knowing every little thing.
Definitely did not know what I was doing and I hated it.
Yeah. I think that's the thing too. It's like when you start, even if it's something that you want to do, you're going to hate it a little because you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And
I think it's like, I feel like I was such a perfectionist and I missed out on a lot of things because I wanted everything to be perfect. But it's not about being perfect. It's about showing up and just having grace for what happens, like being okay with making mistakes, being okay. Like I remember that my mindset was changing as I was doing this because I messed up something on the choreography 1 class. And it was like an epiphany moment. Instead of like, I used to feel like I messed up and then I would feel bad. Like, oh my God, I hope no one saw me. Like instead I laughed and I thought it was funny and I just got right back in on the next beat. And that was a huge growth moment for me because I would always be the person that would just in my head say like, I can't believe you did that. Everyone saw you. That was embarrassing. And you totally like I'd be so disappointed in myself. And instead it was just like, oh, that was hilarious. Now I'm going to move on to the next thing. And it wasn't like a bad thing. It was like, that's part of the process is embracing the mistakes because then you learn how it doesn't work or you learn how it will work for you.
Yeah. Oh, this is like a good, like motivational conversation. I'm like thinking of all the things. I'm like, okay, well, what can I add to my list that's going to push me to comfort zone?
Right.
Just follow Shine's words. I'll work on something.
Yeah.
And it might not be cycling.
You can just come to my boxing class next.
Yeah, I do. I want, you know what? I think it'd be so fun. Well, we got to find some kind of variation of that, of getting you to do some sessions for like the office or the team.
Yeah.
Like it's a very good team building thing. Like you mentioned, like just anything with
Right.
sports. Well, I loved this conversation. It went in a very different direction than I think I originally was seeking out, but I love it. It feels very just knowing where you're at and like where you've come from in a very empowering, and it's work. It's not like it's ending. It's not like you've reached, sort of this peak of where you want to be.
Right.
You're just constantly, like we all are, a work in progress.
Yeah. I think it's definitely just building the daily habits. What works for you? What brings you peace? What's going to make you better for tomorrow? And what can you do today to make that happen? And I'm a person that I can get in my head about past things, which when you're in your past, you get in depression. When you're in too far in the future, you get anxiety. And I try really hard to stay out of those because I can go in a black hole either way.
Yeah.
So I just look at what can I do today to make myself better? That's it. And sometimes when I'm having really hard days, it's like my only goal is to get home safe to my bed. I just need to make it home today. That's it. And whatever that looks like, sometimes I might do nothing and just make it home. And I'm like, just embracing that and accepting like, that's what I did today. Great job.
I love that. That's what I need to start, because I can definitely play the other fiddle on that side. Okay, so as we wrap up, we usually wrap up these employee spotlights with a little bit of a rapid fire.
Okay.
So first thing that comes to your mind.
Disclaimer, I'm not held liable for these answers. I do not know what's going to come out of my mouth.
Okay, let's see. What is one food or meal you will never give up?
Never get up. Waffle French fries.
Ooh.
Never.
Do you have a very particular place you like to go for those?
AZ88. It's the best.
That sounds so good.
So I married a personal trainer. I don't know if I told you that. My husband's a personal trainer and he gets psycho about food. And I'm like, just order the French fries. And he's like, no, just order a salad. I was like, nope, I'm ordering French fries and I don't share. These are the rules. I don't care. I'll never have abs. I want the waffle French fries.
Always waffle French fries. What place do you want to visit next?
Ooh. Oh, I definitely want to go to, what's that place in Mexico? We can jump in.
Cabo?
Not Cabo. Oh. It's by Cancun. Tulum.
Oh.
I want to go to that Tulum gym where it's like Flintstone. Have you seen that?
No.
It's in Tulum and it's a famous gym. I think it's just called Tulum Jungle Gym, and everything's made out of wood, like Tarzan's gym. Literally, and there's like baskets and they put rocks in them and it's like right on the beach.
I have to look that up.
I want to go there so bad. Yeah, Tulum.
Do you prefer sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise. In college, I was like a party animal, so I was like sunset. But now I'm like, no, definitely is early riser.
Early riser.
Mm-hmm.
What is the last thing that you binged watched?
What did I binge watch? The Good Doctor.
Oh, do you like that show?
I do.
Okay. I've been wanting to watch that. And I don't know if it was like the first episode with that guy at the airport.
Yeah.
Or the kid.
Yeah.
Or as the sign comes or something. And I saw that and I think he got the pen and helped cut a hole
like a
in
trach something.
Yeah. And I was like, anything like with medical, like I'm interested in like ER and things of that nature. But it also, I don't get queasy much, but it's definitely out of my comfort zone.
I feel like that show is way more graphic because I watch Grey's Anatomy and I love it. And that one shows a little bit more for some reason.
Yeah, I feel like Grey's Anatomy is more jargon and like more like a personal storyline. Yeah. And Good Doctor seems it's that, but it's also from what
they show a little bit more of the medical side. And the first couple episodes, I was like, oh, that's different. Now I'm used to it. There's still drama. It comes. So just hang in.
And last but not least, who was your first celebrity crush?
My first celebrity crush, Eminem.
Really?
I remember I had like so many posters of him. And I was like so excited when 8 Mile came out, and I came home from a trip and my mom put the DVD on my bed and I like lost it. I watched it a million times and I probably know all the words to all his raps. I was in love with him. And then my husband just sent me, I think this week, that he's turning like 55 or something. I was like, oh, I feel old now.
I will say that is probably, out of everything we discussed, the biggest surprise.
Really?
I never would.
What did you think my crush was going to be?
I mean, I really didn't have a guest, but like, I didn't think it would be like David Cassidy or anything, but I did not think Eminem.
I love
like
Eminem.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas or something.
I know. I remember everyone loved him at that time. No,
yeah.
I had an Aaliyah poster, and then the rest 3 of them were like Eminem.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, I'm so glad that we had this conversation, and I'm hoping everybody here too listening has gotten to know Shine a little bit more, and obviously. Shine, if you want to just drop in your coffee order.
I know, right?
Yeah. And
it depends on who's ordering it. Because you know when coffee people they're not coffee people. I feel bad giving them a long order. So if you're not a coffee person, you want to bring me coffee, just a cold brew with sugar-free vanilla, I'm good. But if you're a coffee person, I want that iced triple sugar-free vanilla latte with almond milk.
Ooh, almond milk makes everything better.
Right.
All right. You guys heard it. Thanks so much for listening for another episode of Conversations Around the Table. And thank you, Shine, for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk to you guys later.